But here is our beautiful VFR. Today I want to start working on the subframe. You can see there is no subframe on there. I've taken it off. The old one was damaged and is sitting right here, leaning up against our little stand here. I want to remake this guy. There's our entire wiring harness in a box at the moment. So the old subframe connects right here and right here. I have a vague idea of where to aim on this thing, but we'll see how it actually turns out. This is a seat we're going to be using. We already made a bracket to attach this seat to the bike. That's what it's attached to on the front part here. On the back, I've just got it propped up with this spare piece of pipe, and I want as many of the electronics as possible to live underneath this seat. I'm going to have a subframe here. My plan at the moment is a subframe that will be clearly custom, a trellis frame sort of style subframe on here, and I'm going to have the frame itself will be exposed, and then sitting on the inside of that frame for the most part is going to be, I'm going to have an aluminum sort of housing that I'm going to make that goes inside there, and all the electronics will sit inside that aluminum housing. So I'm going to start with our attachment points here. I'm going to need to machine those up. All right, and so we can see with the stock attachment points, I always like to see what a real engineer made for this bike. And it probably is very simple just to cut these things off of here, grind all the welds and stuff down and clean them up. And I could just start with these and all right, so I've got two little pieces here made so far, because what happened was that this one here, I cut it off the bike and it's curved. It sort of curves around that way. And I could just cut it again more like that, but I don't know, it just seemed easier and simpler just to make a new one. And this one you can see is curved. I want to curve this one. And so the way I like to do that is with like a washer or something, and then we'll mark off those curves, those corners, and cut those off. All right, and so here we are with these shaped out more. Still a bit hot. So yeah, there they are shaped out, nice and tombstone-like. The rear one is kind of interesting. This is the thicker one, and the stock, this is straight off the stock bike. It's got a big hollow part in the back here. I assume that's for some weight savings they were going for on this thing. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, we should be able to salvage this thing. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to utilize it yet. But I'm imagining taking a solid round bar like this and machining it down so that it will fit in this hole, and then welding it up. So at this time, here is our assortment of connection points. My next step is to start making a little adapters off of these guys to adapt them onto this guy here. Some 1/2-inch tubing. All right, so I've got a bunch of 1/2-inch rod here. Use the end mill there to do that cool little indent piece on the top there. And the point of that is so that I can adapt this piece onto there. We can put it in just like that, and that will look pretty slick, I think. But yeah, I think that will look pretty cool, like that. Like that. And then we've got these guys. This one is just designed so that it fits in to our little pre-existing hole there, and then I can weld all the way around here. And the rest of it is designed to fit inside our 1/2-inch tube, just like that. You can see how nicely that lines up. And then I'm going to just weld that all around like that. And then these guys should do the same thing. Fit in there like that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out so far. I think this will look pretty nice by the time we're done. All right, now we're getting into welding prep, and I would like to clean these guys up a bit here before I weld them so it's nice shiny metal. All right, now I've got stuff cleaned up here. I've got this cleaned up, I've got this cleaned up, and so now it's time to strap it down to my welding table, fixture everything down, and get to welding, man. So I'm pretty happy with my little part here that I have made. I mean, it's cool to make parts, I gotta say. Just one of these big chunkers here. So that's it, that's our jumping off point. From here, I start playing with tubing, sticking this stuff on here, and you know, going, all right, well, how do I want this to look? How is it gonna, where does it go? And then we gotta start bending tube and whatnot. And in order to bend metal, we've got Bendy McBenderson here. My tubing bender slash roller. All right, so I've got a rough outline here with some welding wire of kind of where we want this subframe to be, where it comes from up here and comes back here. I want it to come up and have sort of, we were gonna have like a little platform right behind the seat here, so that kind of like an adventure bike sort of style thing where I can bolt stuff, strap things down here. It's not going to be for really anything else than that. So we're going to be, I think, like a cage back here. Basically just a frame, and then underneath here we'll have a box that holds electronics. All right, and that translates into something like that. All right, so I need to bend up another pipe, another tube just like this for the other side of the bike. All right, there's two on there now. Kind of get a feel for something. I don't know, I'm playing it by ear here. I'm trying to do this all in one, as much of a one tube as I can. I'm inevitably gonna, I can't bend all of this stuff all together. I'm gonna have to weld some stuff on back here, another bend that goes across, but I try to do as much as I can here, and it's gotten really complex. So these are matched up, they're level across here, the same, and then this line here sort of slopes at the same slope as the gas tank does right there, that line. So I think that will look good. I'd like to start welding this up, at least this top portion here. So I'm going to take this off, weld that hoop part here together, and then we'll start working on trying to fit it up to this other bar that runs to the actual frame. Neat little slugs that I made up here. See these guys? I made up from some round stock. This is, I think this is like 3/8 round stock, and they fit inside this. So they fit inside here pretty decently, and I can use that to join these two together, basically. And I can have a gap in there like that, maybe not that big, but then I can weld that gap together, and this thing will be super strong. All right, on that one I went ahead and made sure I had a bunch of overfill on there, because I'm going to grind that down so it's nice and flat, and so hopefully you can't tell there was ever a weld there. All right, so now I'm just trying to line this stuff up. I want this to be about 8 to 9 inches, this length back here. Here are my pieces I'm working with. Now, I need to sort of make these fit up together. Our next step is to do the sides. We got a mount right here. It needs to come up into here somewhere. So basically I want a straight line with a little curve at the end. All right, so here's our angle. Let's stick that up here. All right, this is what I'm looking at so far. I can trim that stuff next. I still want to check to make sure I've got room for electronics, batteries. All right, so here's my battery. I'm using an anti-gravity battery, which is smaller. This is gonna need to sit down in here. All right, so here's my computer for the bike. That could easily live like right in this realm here. The regular rectifier, we want that to get as cool as possible, as much air as possible, so that will live back here. We've got the basis of our subframe welded up here, where everything on here so far is welded. But if I put pressure on it, I mean it's solid, but it's not strong enough to hold weight, you know, my weight at this point. But before I get to adding extra reinforcements and stuff on the side here, I want to start down underneath the seat. We've got the attachment point, BMW attachment mechanism, and it's supposed to latch. Get it in here. It's supposed to latch onto the seat like so, and so this is supposed to rotate up on here, and there's a spring and everything, and so I need to make a mechanism. I need to be able to attach this on each side here. All right, so here is what I've got so far. I've got these little pieces here that I machined up so that it will fit on one side here like that, and it's threaded on the other side, and I can bolt that down. Basically like a little sort of advanced spacers in a sense, and I got the same sort of thing on this side. And so far, this is what I've got. Well, just adding these little, they're not even braces, but they're just like little brackets on the sides here. They do double as a brace though, and just adding that on there has taken away a lot of the flex within this frame here. It's still not up to par yet. We're going to add some more bracing in here, some triangulation and whatnot that will strengthen it up a lot more. I think next I want to do a mock out how my little box is going to sit inside here. I'm having a hard time ordering aluminum or finding aluminum because I want like 16 gauge aluminum sheet to make my little box out of. They have 1/8 inch around, no problem, but that's like freaking skid plate material, I don't need anything that thick just to hold the battery in there. So right now I want to mock it up out of cardboard. Got my old to-do list that we completed to get it to the test run phase. And now I can use this cardboard. All right, here's the beginning of a box right here. That should that should easily fit in here. Something like that. I don't think we'll have any issue with the wheel clearance here. I don't think the wheel travel is like, that's got to be at least 5 inches there. I don't think it travels that far. Now the question is sort of, can I fit everything in this box? So battery, computer, I've got the tip over sensor. I think I've got like 2 of these relays. I've got this other sort of relay-like thing. Got this flasher relay. Our fuse box and our main fuse, and I'm going to represent those with these aluminum squares here, which are pretty much the same size. Maybe that would work. The other bit I've got are several of these guys. I've already got everything coped out and everything. So this one goes back here. And you'll note this line here, this line here, this line here, and this line here are all the same. I'm trying to pay attention to my lines on this thing. I'm also paying attention to like this line here with the muffler. All this stuff is trying to get some cohesiveness in the lines here. And these lines all sort of correspond to the lines on the tank, which should make it look nicer when we're done. All right, so I've just got these guys tacked in here right now, and now I want to add some cross members right here. Just boom, 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 boom. It'll be great. I love welding. And what I also love is that I'm getting to use all these little scrap pieces, these little extra bits from when I did all the tube bending for the subframe. That's efficiency, man. Efficiency. All right, a couple hours later, and we've got both sides. The little extra cross braces here all fabricated and fit up on here. Now I need to weld everything in. All right, so small update here. I've got it off the bike. I have welded up part of the cross members here, the little reinforcements, cross braces, whatever you want to call them. I've got to weld in the other ones. I started welding these on the bike, welded about halfway, and then took them off the bike so I could get the inside portion of it. Yeah, now we've got to put these guys in that way. All right, there it is. My beautiful thing for the day, my beautiful creation. So that's it for the sides. Like, so it should be in an up and down vertical. It should be very strong at this point. It's side to side. You can see we don't have really anything. Side to side, there's that one bar back there. There's a little thing here that's not supposed to function as a structural component at all. And so I'm gonna need to put in some more cross braces. I'll put in like another X, probably up front like that. At this point, I'm still waiting on some metal. I'm waiting for some aluminum sheet. All the stuff I tend to order for some reason is not common. All the, like this stuff here is 1/2-inch tubing. Hard to get around here. Yeah, now it should be super strong. It's not even bolted down all the way.
So yeah, I think we're good there. I can sit on this thing, no problem now. I'm just waiting for the aluminum, to get some of the aluminum so I can put that, make the box that goes in here, and then I can figure out, I don't know if I'm gonna have a piece going just straight across here, if I was gonna come down a little bit to make space for the aluminum box. I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but I think it's just gonna be straight. I kind of want to hold off for 1 second to do that. I'm gonna have a cross brace on the bottom is my plan at the moment, and then up here we'll have essentially a cross brace up here, but it's gonna be removable because I'm gonna have some threaded pieces right in here where I can just bolt something onto it, and that thing that I bolt on will provide the cross bracing for this thing. I also need to figure out taillights, turn signal. Turn signals are going to be easy. Those are just going to mount right in this little spot here. Turn signal will stick out, and then the taillight. I'm almost thinking the taillight mounts to like one of the sides here, this side or that side, and it just sort of is off to the side, and we'll mount it sort of right on the inside, but over there. So here we are with the seat on. So far, it's looking pretty good here. All right, so now we're messing with the tail light at the moment. So this is a Mod Pod Mini from Morimoto. And this thing I got on it right now is an accessory. This little way to mount it on here. And I didn't know how these things worked before I bought it. But now that I do, I don't know that I'm gonna use this mount, because it's awfully large and, you might say, unsightly. So this comes off. Take that back off. You can see it's kind of a fun little modular design where there's a threaded end there. This is threaded on this end as well. It comes off, and in the middle you've got all these weird things, but it's actually how you can mount this. The little mount plate that can go in here is just a piece of, just a flat piece basically, with a little slight angle on the sides of it to go in there, and then it's held in by, when you screw the sides on, that holds the thing in there. So I kind of like that option better, so I'm going to swap it back to its sort of basic form here. On here, and then you've just got this little thing that slaps on the side of the bike. I just need to make a mount for it that I can then sort of weld to the bike or whatever, and then I'll have like a nice little tiny mount. Alright, so I've now made a little piece of metal that's got beveled edges that fits inside there. So now when I put the little caps on both ends, it's like wedged in there and it can't come out. It's a pretty cool design. Now I just need to, it's so tiny, I need to weld on a little piece here that I can attach this to something else. But yeah, it's pretty cool design though. I just can't lose that little tiny piece. All right, so now I'm working on, I want to have an aluminum platform that goes over the top of this thing. And I've got this, there'll be these little cutouts on the side so you could strap stuff down to it. That's kind of the idea, because I want this to be almost a modular situation where I can swap this panel out for panels of different sizes or whatever. And so here's one version of it. This is kind of a small, I would consider this a smaller utilitarian version. So that can go on there. Although there's also this, and it's probably just as functional. This would go in and it would fit down inside these two bars here, these two tubes. And then it would also, you could also strap stuff down. You just strap it down to the sides here of the subframe. I kind of like this better. It's sleek, and it fits more into the sort of like a fast bike. You know, it's trimmed down, trim and slim, fast.
So I think I'm gonna have to start this with as my base. And then the question is just, do I have more? Do I extend it down the back here? And I don't know. This area in here, I don't know what to do with. What that needs. I don't know what it needs at the moment. This is my second version of my little tray here. And what I want to do, I need to run the electrical wires. I'm going to test run them up through here and see what actually fits in my little box here that we're trying to make. Alright, so these are all the stock pieces that are in here, all the stock components, except for the battery. This is a much smaller battery. This is the ECU, the computer for the bike. And these are like the stock relays for the bike. And then here's the fuse panel, the fuse box, whatever you want to call it, for the bike. And so I'm not going to be using these relays, that one, and this one I'm going to be using much smaller ones. So that will take up less space. There are plugs that go into the computer here, but they don't actually, I've tested this out, and they don't actually take up much footprint in here. So I think I'll be okay. Wiring stuff is always a pain because the wires and stuff, it's so hard to get everything looking neat and like pin everything down. The wires want to like push things a certain way, so it's hard to get everything organized. But this just gives me a sense that everything should ultimately fit in here without too much problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this box out now and take these pieces off, and we will make some aluminum pieces and weld everything up. All right, I've got everything marked out here on my piece of aluminum, my giant piece of aluminum sheet. A little hint of what's to come on this bike. All right, I got my pieces cut out here. We've got them all shaped up. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and weld some stuff together. First I've got to finish this little cross brace on the bottom here. This is just tacked in, this little X. So I need to pull this off, pull the subframe off and weld that fully. And we'll make our box, fits in there. All right, our little cross brace is done. It's all fully welded up and back on the bike, and it didn't shrink up too much, so it still fits on the bike, which is pretty awesome. This is 3003, like 3000 series aluminum, so it's softer. And I got that because I want to actually do some shaping later on in the process. But for right now, for welding, it should be, well, it is weldable. I just welded up a little cube as a test. This little guy here, which I'd like to do that every once in a while to, I mean, it's a small cube, so it, you know, the heat management is an issue when you're welding this. It makes it more of a challenge and everything than this in theory should be, because this has more metal. It should absorb heat. It will absorb more heat. So I'd like to figure out what I'm doing on some testing before I go to the main thing here. Get all my little pieces together. And I'll try and just start tacking them on here. I am going to use like a little backer thing like this to help clamp to, and also kind of as a heat sink as well. And then I've got my welder set to like a pulse setting, because this is like 16th inch aluminum, so it is fairly thin stuff, you know. Heat management is an issue for sure. My 3-in-1 shear brake roll machine. I'm going to use it to break something. I've got this little piece, I got it marked
stick this in here and see if we can make this work. Oh, did a pretty good job there. I wasn't sure how close I'd be to that line, but that's pretty good. All right, I've just welded this guy up. I'm not super stoked about the welds on this. It's sloppy. I really would like to be to the point where I could have consistent, nice welds, and I just don't. I think part of that is because of my joint ups here. My joints are not consistent, right? Gotta have perfect joints to have perfect welds, and I don't. And so, plus this is like really thin for me, aluminum, 16 gauge aluminum. And so this was a bit scary at the beginning anyways, and I started over with like I started with a pulse setting on the AC welding, and I couldn't see anything because of the pulse. It was too dark. And so I swapped over, I got rid of the pulse, just went to straight welding, and it worked out just fine. It was a lot better. I got more consistent stuff. But functionally good, so we'll take it. There it is on the bike. All right, I've got a threaded bung now. All right, and then I want to weld this bung onto my subframe, and so I have threaded it onto this little plate here so I can have a flat surface as a reference on the subframe. So I can then come in here and essentially stick this guy on here like that, and then I can get in here and weld it from the bottom, and it will be nice. It'll be nice and level on the top when I'm done. All right, now with the bung welded on there, I'm going to take this bolt here that already has a pointed end on it. I'm going to thread this through from the other side so that the point is like just up above the surface of that thing. All right, now I'm going to put my tray in here. All right, now I can come in here where that middle part, where that pointy part should be. I'm going to all right, now we should have made a mark where that bolt came up, that pointy end of the bolt. Now my bolt lines up just perfectly. All right, now I need to answer questions like, how do we strap down this ECU so it doesn't move around in here? All right, I'm thinking something like this where we've got the computer here and basically just run a piece of wire. I can literally drill a hole in the back side of this case, hook the wire in there, run it across the top of here, and then put a little loop on the end, and then I can use this 6mm bolt, or a 6mm bolt, run it down through the middle here, drill another hole in the bottom of the case, and then I can just tighten that thing down, and it should squeeze this down to the floor and hold it tight in there. That should be enough. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put a piece of rubber like this. All right, and then on the battery, I am thinking take advantage of this bolt right here. I can make like a little L bracket that has a little bit of an adjustable slide up on this part. I can literally slide that thing down and tighten it, crank it down on here, and maybe that's enough. I do kind of question that. My next step that I want to do on the mill over there is to cut this piece out. I've got it sort of marked out where the center is and everything, but I need to drill a slot in the top part here, and this is going to be for that battery. All right, I've got that little piece there that I'm going to make that bracket with in my vise here. In my mill, I'm going to make that edge there perfectly straight.
I'm gonna go ahead and now put a slot in that thing and then we'll bend it. All right, so there's that guy. I got a little slot in there. There we are so far. I still need to cut off. This is a little bit more than I need on the bottom. All right, let's test fit this thing and see if I'm even close. There we go. Oh, I think I'm pretty damn fucking close. All right, so the slot works by allowing me to push this thing up a little bit, give myself clearance to get that battery out. Oh, I love it. So yeah, there it is. Goes in on the battery right across there, and it does not come into contact with the terminal over there, the positive terminal, because that would be bad. Yeah, and then the slot there allows this thing to lift up a little bit, just so I can pull that battery out. So yeah, I like this solution because it's simple. I mean, how much I'm using an existing bolt up there, an existing mounting point on the bike, and I just, with one little bracket, simple little bracket. I'm using this stuff for my rubber on the bottom. This is like the thicker stuff, the 8-inch thick rubber. And this is like stuff plumbers use this. I don't know what plumbers do with it, but I find it a convenient piece of rubber to utilize for stuff like this. All right, now I've got a piece of 1/8-inch rod here and attach that to the end of this guy here. Got that one done. I've got this plate cut out on the bottom. It's basically going to be the base for a bracket, but we'll get bolted down in here. And then off of that bracket, there's going to be a wall, comes up, and on that wall, we bolt in this guy, which is our tip sensor. And then I just made up this little bracket here that's going to go on this guy over in here. Goes our main fuse here, starter relay, and that slides onto there using the stock sort of rubber mount. All right, I've made a small bung to go on this is the air temperature sensor basically. So I got an extension on this so it can go inside this box. I thought about putting it outside the box, outside on the bike somewhere, because it's supposed to measure the air temperature, but this is actually, I think, not a bad, this is going to get lots of fresh air through here, because it's not completely enclosed. I think this might actually be a good spot, because it will keep it from getting moisture and everything. Otherwise, I'm putting it out here where I get kick up from the wheel. So, but yeah, this is just an example of all the little tiny things that have to be done to make this come together, and it takes time. All right, I want to try something new that I've not done before. I've drilled it, now that we've made this bracket exactly how we need it to be, I've drilled this hole in the center so that I can try out my new dimple die. So dimple dies are kind of cool. I should put it, and we can try this out. I'm gonna try it on my vise here. Never done this before. And if it doesn't work on the vise, we can put it in the press, the hydraulic press. So. Yeah, we just bent the thing. So the dimple die should should remove some weight, that little hole there, and then it also should, by bending the material there, should make it stronger, the whole thing stronger. All right, here's my little bracket so far. I've got all these little tiny welds on here. I did this by like lay wire stuff, right? Put the wire in there, the fill wire, and then just sort of walk the cup, kinda, sorta. And that seemed to work pretty well. There's like no distortion on this thing in terms of the base metal. It's like perfectly straight still. So I'm pretty happy with this. I've got these new relays, these Moto Gadget relays. These things, the plan for them is that I've got a nice rubber washer or spacer, whatever you want to call that, and a couple other metal spacers on the bottom. And then this goes on and just it threads onto this bolt that I have welded onto the bottom there. And that's it. And that's how those are installed. And that's pretty slick, man. My little tip sensor. And again, I've got these rubber spacers there that go in here and become sort of a vibration damper. I've got some captive nuts on the back side here. These little captive nuts there, so that I don't have to mess with trying to hold a nut on the other side of it while I'm bolting this in or screwing this in on the one side. So that makes things a lot neater in terms of just functionality. I like that a lot better. And then we've got our main fuse. This guy here goes on to these little prongs here on the side. And I'm not sure exactly. I'm probably have to rewire this too. I'll need shorter wires ultimately. And then this is my air temperature sensor, goes here. All right, so there it is on the bike so far. It's looking a little bit neater, but we still got a bunch of loose wires here, a bunch of things to sort of strap down and swap out. I'm gonna swap this relay out still, so the relays are in here now. And then we've got a whole bunch of wires here that go to, these connectors go to our computer, and I've got you can see there's quite a few wires on here that I need to shorten. I think this video is long enough at this point, and you should have a pretty decent idea of how I put all this stuff together and how the electronics are sort of going to lay out on this thing, and sort of what it took to put it all together, all the little details. This is why this video it's taking me so long to put together, to make, whatever. It's just because there's so many little details in making all this stuff, the electronics, and come together in a brand new, didn't exist at all before SubFrame. It's never as quick as I would like it to be, or as I imagine it to be, which is why I keep doing it, because I think it's going to be, easier, and it never is, man. It always takes me longer than I think. So anyways, next on this bike, I'm probably not going to show you too much more detail on this subframe. I will come back later on and give you an overview of how it ultimately ends up looking and what I did. But in terms of how I did it, I think we've pretty much covered that at this point. So I'm going to try and take this subframe to another level here, but it's not going to be completely finished before I move on to the front of the bike, because we have a lot of more cosmetic stuff on the front of the bike, electronics as well. Sort of a similar story on the front of the bike, where we've got to do the headlights and some more relays and things like that up front, and similarly make a framework and some boxing and stuff like that for those things to live in. So, and we got to design all that stuff from scratch. So yeah, I'll look forward to that stuff coming up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.